Buenos dias, mi gente. Good morning, everybody. I actually got this Airbnb for a month. I'm still looking for an apartment. So, in the meantime, I get to LARP this sick restroom. Shout out my boy Adam for letting me use the place. Check it out. It's pretty big. It's like, I'd say like 800 square feet. Has 2 restrooms. It's got a pretty sick wall in the back.
All right, guys, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. So if you want to start cutting hair, the best ages to start cutting hair is somewhere between middle school, high school, max would be like 25. And the reason why I say 25 is because if you start at 25, it'll take you about 3 to 5, sometimes even 6 years to really get good at cutting hair. So you'll be really good at like 30 years old. And think about it. If you were to start at 15 and be really good at 20, whereas if you start at 25 and be really good at 30, if you take those two people, the 20-year-old and the 30-year-old, say the 30-year-old Luis, the 30-year-old Luis, he might have a wife, he might have some kids, he's gonna be busy in life and he's just not gonna know as much of the trends and what looks good on people because he's just out of touch. Whereas the 20-year-old, me, 21-year-old, right now, I'm in a position where I know what every influencer, what haircut they have, what styling products they use. So you're just much more into what's in. That's why it's so much better to choose barbering at such a young age. And think about it, as a client, which one are you gonna choose? Are you gonna choose the 30-year-old Luis, who has a family? Maybe he's receding a little bit, maybe he has a family, maybe he's a little bit overweight. I hope he's not overweight. Or are you gonna choose me? Obviously you're gonna choose me, right? You're gonna choose the barber who knows and who looks like he's within the trends. So at the end of the day, choose barbering as young as possible. I started cutting hair at 13 years old, and honestly, it was the best thing I could have done. If you want to start, first thing you want to do is spend about $100 on a kit. All you need is the clipper, trimmer, shaver, straight razor, and scissors, and water, obviously, and the drape. So as long as you have those things, you can start. And you really want to cut somebody who just doesn't care about their hair. If you have somebody that that's already going to say great clips and not a barber, just hit them up, whether it's your dad, whether it's your cousin. For me, it was my dad. My dad would get his haircuts at Great Clips, so that says a lot, right? He doesn't really care about his hair. Like Great Clips usually gives you a little 15-minute haircut. He'll sit in the chair. Oh yeah, just make me look nice and clean. So that's literally something you could actually achieve really fast. So it's because really all they do is like number 3 on the sides. Like guys, it's not that hard to do a 3 on the sides and scissors on top. Well, actually, I'd argue that scissors on top is obviously a lot harder. So the way you want to start and the way, if you really want to become a good barber, it's going to be 4 levels. The first level is going to be knowing how to do a lineup. Lineups are probably like the easiest thing about barbering. And then on top of that, once you get good at, lineups, it's going to be fading. Once you understand fading, then you could do scissor work on top. Once you understand scissor work on top, then you could focus on styling. And mastering those 4 pillars is really what allowed me to become the barber I am today. Being where I'm at now, charging $150 for a haircut. So I first want to advise you to just focus on lineup tutorials and fading tutorials, and then focus on those 2 things first. Worry about the top. Still care about the top, right? But like that's usually how barbers I see, start to perfect the craft, is between those 4 pillars. Once you start, practicing on your dad, your cousin, your friends, you want to just start posting it, like posting, yo guys, so I'm trying to become a barber. I would post on my Snapchat story, who wants free haircuts? Free haircuts, DM me, free haircuts, and start showing off your work. And there's gonna be very few people because obviously you're not good, but you just have to shoot your shot at literally every family member. And it's always gonna start with your closest friends. It's gonna start with your dad, like I said, your dad, your cousin's friends. So they are willing to make that sacrifice, but it's cool because you're really close with them. And you, like I said, you wanna choose the friends that really don't care so much about their hair, because the truth is, like, worst comes to worst, like they'll just go back to whatever, bullshit haircut they had. So for me, it was my dad. He just got like a simple gentleman's cuts, like literally 3 on the sides. That's all I would do. And then my cousin, I'd give him a buzz cut. So what actually happened is like I would cut their hair, and then they would go and get their normal haircut with their barber and have them fix it. So the problem that happened with me though, I was like through this process of like, watching YouTube videos, watching big blends, and then practicing with my clients. But like I was noticing that like I would just watch the videos with my clients and I still wouldn't get like as good as them. And I'm like, I mean, I would get a little better by better, but like nothing like significant. And I noticed that it wasn't until like I actually started working in a barbershop at 14 years old, which is crazy, the summer of me turning 14, that like I started just shadowing the barbers, and thankfully I had those barbers like showing me how to cut. So it wasn't until I had a teacher that would actually see my work and give me feedback, which is the difference. They gave me feedback to actually get better. So yeah, they gave me feedback telling me what's wrong. Like they'd be like, yo, Diego, like, bro, you're doing a burst fade? Like, bro, what the hell is this, Diego? Like, they'd be like, bro, here, give me that. You can get the comb and start fixing the haircut. And I'd just be like this, like, whoa, like I'm watching like a new science, because this is like so new to me. But I was really paying attention, and as I was watching the barber, I'd be like, oh my god, like all of this makes so much sense. So now like I'm applying that. Now that I watched him, it was a lot easier to do it on my clients now because I got that feedback. So anyways, how I did it and how I suggest you do it is ask a barber from your local town to give you like a one-on-one class. Whether you're here in Miami, you want to do it with me, or whether you're somewhere in Los Angeles and you want to do it somewhere in Los Angeles, literally DM barbers and ask them, how much do you charge for a one-on-one session? I really want to take barbering seriously. I'm a beginner, and I promise you, after 3 or 4 classes, you're gonna be way better than if you just did it all on your own, right? So that's how to really start, cutting hair and really start making money from it, is getting somebody who has already done it and just ask them. And you have to pay, guys. You have to pay. You have to allow them to receive that money so that he could give you the value back. And it's not gonna be money, it's gonna be knowledge. So that would be my biggest advice. And that's how to cut hair. That's how to start cutting hair and start making money. And the truth is, guys, when you start cutting hair, it's not that hard to start making money from it. Obviously, you're not gonna be charging $150 like I am, right? But I was charging tips. Like, bro, you could have given me $1. I'd be like, okay, thanks, bro. But thankfully, people would give me like $5, $10, right? So, but the very first actual price was $12. I would post my prices on my story, on my highlights, and people would actually like hit me up. But I mean, it was only really like, my friends from school. So that's really how I started, was getting people that I knew and just telling them to come in, and I would just shoot shot after shot. Come on, bro, like, let me cut you up. So ask your friends, guys. Ask your friends. I want to tell you guys another story. Before I became a barber, I was actually, a really good student at school. I would really focus on my homework, and thankfully my parents really pressured the crap out of me to do really good at school, because they wanted me to become successful. And coming as a first generation American, my parents, I mean, all they know is like the best way to become successful is becoming a doctor, a lawyer, a surgeon, something with a high degree. They weren't aware of the possibilities with entrepreneurship, which AKA is a barber, for those of you guys who don't know. I don't know like how much you guys know about actual business or entrepreneurship, but if this is your first time, welcome. So I imagine if you want to become a barber, you don't have much experience as entrepreneurship, or maybe you try something else, who knows? But there's that. Another thing, after about a year of cutting hair to me was literally just still a side hustle. It was like, I'm just gonna, use cutting hair as money I can make to pay for my school when I become a doctor, engineer, whatever I want to become, right? So I told my parents, like, yeah, mom, like, I like cutting hair. Like, this was me, back 14, 15 years old. Yeah, mom, like, I like cutting hair, and she's like, okay, Miko, like, that's good. I'm like, yeah, but I know I don't want to take it serious, mom. This is just gonna be, my money to pay for school. And she's gonna be like, okay, Miko, that's good. But it wasn't until about a year and a half where I started charging like, I think it was like a 30 bucks a haircut, something like that. And I started making, decent money from it. Like, I can't do the math now, but, I was probably making like, 3 to like 500 bucks a week at, 14 years old, which is not bad at all by any means. So, I started making, some decent money. And, at 14 years old, I was like just sitting one day in my room, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, man, like, I'm making good money already at 14. And if I want to become a doctor or, have some kind of education where I need to go to college, I have to finish high school. And then on top of that, I have to finish 4 to 6 to 8 more years of that till I start making some money. And before that, I have to give money to a college so I could, make money. So I have to go in debt and then pay off the debt, and then I can make money. So if you think about it, if I became a doctor, I wouldn't have made good money until I was, 30 years old. Which now I'm saying it on this camera, like, that's crazy to me. And, God has a plan for everybody, and I'm so grateful that I was able to, take the decisions I did today. No hate on any doctors at all. Like, guys, we need doctors, but God just had a different plan for me. And I told my parents one day, I think I was like 15, 16, and they really let me only cut hair during the summer and then after school, right? But they made sure that I prioritized my homework. And then one day, junior year, they got a report card. And keep in mind, I was this straight A student. And out of nowhere, C's, science, C, reading, C, English, C, PE, 100, of course. I was cool with the coach. But everything else, C, B. And my parents were pissed. They were like, Diego, what happened? And I'm like, Mom, you know what happened. I took my time, and instead of putting it in the books, instead of reading chapters about, U.S. history about George Washington and, how he became the first president of the United States, and how, Abraham Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation, something like that, blah, blah, blah. I decided to step my mind off of that and actually focus on barbering because I knew that made me money. And all in my head was like, I wanted to become rich. And obviously barbering made me that money. Whereas reading about, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, although I respect those two individuals very much, I knew that reading about them and taking tests about them and writing papers about them weren't necessarily gonna make me the wealthiest person. And that's why originally I chose to become a doctor. Because before I knew about barbering, I was like, if I want to become rich, the doctor's like really the only possibility, right? So now that I started making money with barbering, I'm like, okay. At 14, I was like, what if I actually, dive deep into this and give it my all right here in barbering? So that's when I moved into a barbershop, and that's when I had to confess, and finally come clean with my parents that I actually wanted to drop out of high school, and my parents just didn't let me drop out of high school because I was cutting hair, I was making decent money at 40 bucks a haircut, and I'm like, Mom, I want to drop out of high school, and they were just like, no. It was, long story short, it was a whole battle of us talking for probably 2 whole days of just arguing, and I'm like, okay, I'll graduate, Mom. And it was like my senior year that I wanted to drop out, but they didn't let me. I feel like if I did drop out, I probably would have been farther. But at least I have my diploma, right? So that's one thing. And at least I got to really experience what it's like being in high school. You're only in high school once. So I guess I am pretty grateful for that. So after that, I just really took full force on it. And the biggest thing was at the time, it was just make sure I was posting my haircuts, tagging my friends, and I would get a bunch of referrals. And that's really what took me off to start cutting hair and, allowed me to charge 40 bucks a haircut. And from 40 bucks to where I am now, that's a whole different story. I'll say that for a different video. But I really just wanted to make this video to influence the people who have not cut hair to start cutting hair, especially if you want to make some money. Because guys, barbering can make you so much money. And the thing is, it's actually a lot easier than you think, because cutting hair itself isn't that hard, but posting is really the harder part. And it's gonna take time, guys. Like, you're not gonna become a great barber in like 1 year. You can become a decent barber, but a great barber realistically takes like 3 years. But if you could start, being a good barber and a good person on the camera, those two are gonna grow at the same time. And by the time you're at year 3, you're gonna be way farther than somebody who's just been cutting hair and not recording at all. Did that make sense? Both of them really work together to excel you to become a good, high-paid barber. Because at the end of the day, yes, I love cutting hair, but I also love getting paid, right? So if you could really combine your passion with something that's gonna really pay you, then guys, you're in the golden zone. You're blessed, So if you're scared, if you're thinking about cutting hair, do it. Do it, guys. It's put me in a really good financial situation. I'm able to not only, provide for myself at 21 years old, but I'm also able to take out my family. Like, I literally took my dad to go see the World Cup. That was one of the best feelings ever. So start cutting hair, start watching tutorials, start practicing, find a barber, pay the barber to teach you how to cut hair, and then from there, start recording your haircuts. All right? So with that being said, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me. If you're a young, hungry, up-and-coming entrepreneur, just start something. Even if it's not barbering, just start something. If it's not barbering, if it's, tattooing, if it's mowing lawns, if it's cleaning windows, if it's running ads for other companies, just start something. For me, it just happened to be barbering, and barbering has been something I've been blessed with. Every single one of you guys have the ability to accomplish anything you want. I come from a small city in Texas, and now I'm living my dream life here in Miami. And as I'm saying that, it's so crazy to believe, because I was literally in your guys' shoes. I was watching people on TikTok posting their dream life in Beverly Hills, in New York, in Miami. And I'd be like, man, what would it be like to be right there? And after, getting the right connections, the right kind of coaching, and just putting in the work every single day, it's allowed me to be here. And I'm making this video because I know what it's like to be lost, especially at a young age, not knowing where life is gonna take you, not knowing how you're gonna make it, right? And I just wanna let you guys know that there's so many options and there's so many ways you could start to make money. And if it's school, cool. If it's school, it's school. But just know that school isn't gonna make you the most money, realistically. This is proven in statistics. Choosing the entrepreneur route, you have literally the sky is the limit when it comes to entrepreneurship. So I personally love entrepreneurship. As an entrepreneur, I chose barbering, and barbering has changed my life. And I just wanna talk about my story. That way I could tell you guys and hopefully inspire you guys to take that same route. So with that being said, it's your boy Diego Toro. If you have any questions, I feel like I missed out on some stuff in the video, but if you want to find out more about like how I was able to get to where I am now, watch my previous video. But let me know in the comments any of like the new videos you guys want to see, whether it's maybe a tutorial or maybe, how to post your haircuts or maybe like a day in the life. You guys let me know. But with that being said, stay tuned. Stay tuned, stay blessed. God loves you.